In the last tutorial steps, we went ahead and we learned all about stockpiles, and we set up a trade-designated stockpile and moved specific items that we're looking to export to it. So if you haven't seen the last tutorial video, go ahead and watch that, as it's a prerequisite to this one. In this tutorial video, we're going to cover how trade works. So our aim now is to trade with off-worlders from the galaxy at large to get some items that we can't yet get ourselves. And the way that we're going to go ahead and start doing that is by clicking on the Trade and Migration menu option at the top of the screen. And the first step here is to click on Initiate Trade Request. Once this is brought up, this brings up the interface that lets us say who we want to trade with and what we're looking to get. So the Select Trade Partner list lets us pick out different organizations that we can trade with. Right now, there's only one available to us, and that's the Off-World Authority for our parent faction. Go ahead and click that. And this just means that we're going to trade with other core worlders from the galaxy at large. We can request item categories that we want to get. In this case, the things that I'm looking to get most right now is attire, because we don't really have a great capacity to manufacture clothing. There are going to be some new people born into our colony pretty soon, and we'll want to make sure that they're adequately clothed. You can also request, you can multi-select here to ask for many different item categories. So I'll go ahead and I'll multi-select one more thing. I'll say I'd like to get attire and drink. We'll get some drink for our people too. We can also request specific raw materials that we want. In our case, I'm just going to go ahead and ask for one. Let's get some meat so that we can use that to manufacture some good food. Fat unicorn meat is an excellent kind of meat with various good and desirable properties. So I'll go ahead and click OK, and that will initiate a trade request with the parent faction. So what we'll do now is we'll wait for a little bit, and eventually, after a few world hours pass, a ship will land here, and then we will be able to engage in trade negotiations after we've seen specifically what they carry. So what's the real use of trade? What it comes down to is that, as a rule of thumb, you're not going to be able to have access to every kind of resource that you want to do everything in any location. There's no perfect starting spot in Outer Colony, especially when you get into the more advanced gameplay of, synthesizing like advanced sorts of metals and materials. It's a near certainty that you're not going to have access to every elemental resource you'll need. So trade is the means by which that can be acquired. So we see that a ship has come in here. We see it moving down through the atmosphere, and once it's landed, we can go ahead and click on our Trade and Migration menu up at the top, and then instead of clicking Initiate Trade Request, this time we click on Trade Negotiations. We might need to give it just a second longer until the ship lands, and has fully landed. We see that some of the people from on board the ship are coming out, and now if we click Trade Negotiations, we will be allowed to do so. So what these people are doing that come out, these are various traders that come along. When they're not engaged in trade activities, they'll come into your socialization areas, interact with your people in various ways, but we're not going to concern ourselves with them for now. What we're going to do instead is look to move these items that we've designated for trade in our trade stockpile in exchange for as much as we can possibly get. So I'm willing to give up all 500,000 units of anthracite coal and all 120,000 units of bauxite. Now you can see that the coal, different materials have different values based on a variety of factors. Anthracite coal as a chemical fuel is fairly valuable, so you see that 500,000 units have a value down here of 2,500,000 credits. So that's 5 credits per unit of anthracite coal. Bauxite, which is a raw ore, unprocessed, if we go ahead and we designate that, it is significantly less valuable. We have 120,000 units. We're only going to get 120,000 credits. We could get more if we had refined this into aluminum and more valuable materials, but we're just going to move the ore here for the sake of simplicity. So we're offering items that add up to a value of 2,620,000 credits. That means that we're going to be able to get about 2,620,000 credits worth of materials from these guys. There are a bunch of factors that influence the sort of the ratio of value that you have to offer to what you're going to get back, but an easy rule of thumb in the early game is to offer a little bit more than what you're looking to get. So We've got a whole bunch of food and attire items. Our priority here is going to be to get functional attire items that we're going to need. So shirts, pants, and shoes are the minimum that every person is going to need in order to be satisfied with basic clothing. So I'm going to look to get, we've got a quantity of 10 for all these attire items. So I've typed 10 in my quantity field. I've clicked on fur pants. I click designate item in quantity, and I get 10 of them moved over here into the items to receive. And then you can see the value that's calculated is 61,600 credits for those items. So I'm going to go ahead and look through. I'd like to get insulated boots. I'd like to get some long pants, long sleeve shirts. You can see the item over here, the value over here increasing. Walking boots I definitely want, and that takes care of all the cheap stuff. Now, we can definitely get, some of these things are at more advanced attire items like armor, boots, helmets, and gloves. These are pretty cool, and so I'm going to try to get a few of these. But as you can see, their value is pretty darn high, so we might not be able to get all of them. Now, these items are also going to be different depending on what the traders happen to bring for you. These are the items that they brought for me, but don't be alarmed if you see different sets of items over here in your items to receive. All right, outstanding. We were able to get our hands on, I was able to get all the attire. I'm going to take all of these drink items, and now we're up to 669,600 credits over here for the value that we're going to receive. I think I can get 100,000 units of fat unicorn meat. I can actually get significantly more than that, so I'm going to go ahead and request 200,000 units. And now we're offering a whole bunch more than we're giving up, and that's pretty agreeable. So we should be able to get back more in currency. Now, currency has a bunch of uses too. You can use it to pay off the Bounty Hunters Guild if they show up looking to take away one of your colonists. You can use it in further trade, so it's always good to get our hands on currency. We can get about 1 million credits, so I'm going to go ahead and type in 800,000 here, and that will leave us with more value that we're giving up than we're going to receive. So I'll go ahead and click on the Submit Trade Offer button. The offer is agreeable. The arrangements for the exchange have been made. I'll click OK. And now when I unpause the game, workers should get to business picking up the items from the stockpile aboard this ship and transferring it to our non-trade stockpiles, making all of the items and materials we got available for immediate use. They will also take the items out of our trade stockpile and move them over onto the ship. The traders will usually stay for a couple of hours. That gives you time to engage in negotiations. If you forgot to move something over to a trade stockpile, it gives you time to move things around. But once they've wrapped up their business, they will board the ship and depart the world, heading back to the galaxy at large. So that covers the basics of off-world trade. Again, you can use this to get your hands on items and materials that you otherwise can't easily get, and it's a very useful tool for growing and expanding your colony.